Do you ever feel like in your business you're risking it all, or sometimes you feel like maybe you're playing it too safe or taking too much risk? Um, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on risk. We're going to talk a little bit about that in this video. My name is Kevin from Maximizing E-commerce. I help people build e-commerce businesses that they can be proud of. So just to get right into risk, I want to start off by saying I'm not a big risk taker historically throughout my life. I've been someone who's played it safe, oftentimes to my own detriment. So I think back to, when I was growing up, I was thinking about like, having that safe job, going to school, going to college, uh, getting a safe job. I was going to retire from a safe job the rest of my life, or, work for a safe job and then retire and then, go off into the sunset. And then I realized I was playing things too safe. And I remember one time when I was working for the man, so to speak, a few years back, I was interviewing for a promotion. And one of the questions was, what was the biggest risk you'd ever taken? And I think at the time I said it was like, I went from this company to that company. And the guy who ended up being my boss looked at me and was like, that's the biggest risk you've come up with. And I realized I didn't have a good answer to that. Like I hadn't really taken many risks, and I realized I was playing it really safe. And as time's gone on, I've come to realize, sometimes we think not taking a risk and playing things safe will keep us safe, but that's not true. We have to be proactive in taking smart risks. Now, I don't believe that we should be someone that just takes, throw caution to the wind and go, just, I'm going to blow all my money. I'm going to put, whatever shiny object comes up, I'm just going to go for it and see what sticks to the wall. No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to play shiny object syndrome. We want to take calculated risks. So let's talk a little bit about calculated risks and what they entail. So, at one point in my life, I thought, just working for a safe job was going to be the thing that was going to keep me safe. I just, do what I'm expected to do, show up when I'm expected to show up, and everything's going to work out fine. And then, it was, kind of worked my way up a little bit, and I thought, okay, I'm safe, just, keep trucking along and, get maybe another promotion or two here and there, and, make a, get some 3-4% raises or whatever it was they were offering at the time. And then I remember the company I worked for got bought out by another company. They didn't come in the first day and start axing people, but a few months later, the department I was in hadn't been touched. And so my level in the organization got cut off, and I was basically given the opportunity to apply for other positions or take a severance package. And I ended up deciding to take a severance package and, take a risk and do a whole different career change. And I ended up going into insurance, where I worked before I went full-time in e-commerce. And I learned quite a bit about risk there too, because insurance essentially is risk. So one of the nice things about e-commerce is that in an e-commerce business, you can do it on the side if you have a full-time job, or if you have a different business, you can start it up and just see how it goes. And you don't have to put huge amounts of capital. It's not like you have to, take $100,000 loan out to get started. You can just start with whatever it is you have available. And, you could even just go literally just to start, you could go to the clearance aisle at Walgreens, which is literally what I did. And buy a few things, put them up for sale on Amazon or eBay or whatever, and see how they sell to at least get your feet wet. But as time goes on, you got to start taking a little bit more risk. And, I started coming up with the assumption that, I really am taking the risks I was taking, and, my money and my time, because you can always get more money, but you can't get more time, or at least the time you spend, you'll never get that back ever again. So I was thinking a lot about, okay, what am I even trying to get here? So as I started, getting my own private label business, starting my own brand, I was thinking, okay, now because I had a full-time job, I'm having to take some risks here. I'm risking my time, risking money, putting more chips on the table, so to speak. And it just got to a point I was thinking, this actually is an insurance policy on my financial future, because if something happened to the insurance company or insurance agency I was working for, I at least now have this to fall back on. And it was bringing in extra money. So I was like, the more I can reinvest in the snowball, so to speak, and let it build up, the better off it's going to be, and give me that opportunity to go full time like I am now, focusing just on the business. And I remember trying to put things in perspective of how much risk should I take when I was trying to decide if I should leave the job. And a few months back on this channel, I had interviewed Bernie Thompson, who's the founder of Efficient Era, and real sharp guy. He's been an e-commerce seller for a long time, and he actually is an 8-figure seller. So not doing over $1 million a year. He's doing over $10 million a year. I guess he is doing over $1 million, but much more than $1 million. He's 10xing that, so to speak. And one of his pieces of advice was, towards the end of that interview, I asked him, what advice would he give him to himself, basically, when he was starting out. And his advice was that, if you find something that's working, now the key is there, find something that's working, and you realize you've got a winner, you don't want to just double down, so to speak. You want to go all in as much as you can. And that really stuck with me. And so it helped me as I was formulating kind of my exit strategy out of my job. I realized, I had a holiday season coming up, so I was going to put more chips on the table, buy more inventory. I wasn't going to let myself run out. I had a bunch of new SKUs that I hadn't tested over the holiday season, so I was going to have to take a risk in putting money into those, which some of them worked out really well and some kind of flopped a little bit. But I'd never know that unless I tried. And I've learned that quite a bit throughout my time in the business. Now, one of the things to think about with risk, another thing to think about here is, and this is kind of going a little bit outside of entrepreneurship, but back when I was in the hotel business, I worked a convention for Harley Davidson Motor Company. Now, Harley Davidson, it's the motorcycles. I was scared to death of the idea of a motorcycle. I actually now have a motorcycle license. The reason I got one is because I was like, these motorcycles, these are actually kind of cool. Because they literally had probably 100 and something motorcycles scattered throughout the convention center and in the hotel. They were everywhere. They were like, you knew Harley Davidson was in town when they were there. It was pretty cool. And so I wanted to check it out and see what, what it might feel like to be on a motorcycle. And I've only driven a motorcycle a couple of times since I got the license, but, I got that course. And a couple of things that, stuck out to me that I think they're very beholden to the concept of risk, because when you're on a motorcycle, you don't have all the safety features, the airbags, the car that's designed to, if you get into an accident, it's basically almost like a tank. You're like pretty much in bubble wrap. Not exactly, but you get the gist that you're well protected when you're inside your car. And, when you get on a motorcycle, it's like vibrating really hard, and there's no seatbelt and there's no airbag. There's just two wheels. And you're like, oh my God, what if I fall off? But I remember, when I was learning about riding a motorcycle, there was a lot of talk about managing the risk there, because, it's almost like you could look at it as like, you can take a few points for everything you did in your favor to not totally eliminate some of the risk of riding a motorcycle, but you can lessen it. So things like wearing a helmet, driving very defensively. So, in a car, I think we're all guilty of it. We're sometimes driving around and, we're not paying as close of attention as we probably should. Whereas in a motorcycle, you have no distractions. It's just you looking out there. You have a radio in most situations on a motorcycle. So you're looking around. So you're looking to see 5 cars ahead of you. What does that guy look like he's doing? Does it look like he might be coming over? So if I, head over that way, could he be like looking to come into my lane? What's the language, the body language of that car, so to speak? Making sure you got the right state of mind. You shouldn't drive no matter what, but in a motorcycle, I think it's even more critical that you're 100% sober. And again, you shouldn't drink and drive no matter what, but in a motorcycle, I think it's even more critical. So those different things you can do, just riding safer, making sure you got the good training, all those things will contribute to you being safer in a motorcycle. And also just making sure you have a comfort level. Because if you focus too much on what could go wrong, that's going to end up being your downfall. And that was one thing I learned in the motorcycle class, is that if we focus on what could go wrong, we're likely to hit it. And in a motorcycle, it's not just a metaphor, it's the truth. So if you've ever ridden a motorcycle, you probably know what I'm talking about here. They teach you when you're turning, you don't just, turn the handlebars, you turn your head. So if you're turning your head too, because wherever you focus is where you're going to go. So I remember we were going around a loop. It wasn't even that big of a loop. And all of a sudden I start going towards a fence. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to hit the fence. Oh my God, I'm going to hit this fence. And the teacher just yells out, the instructor yells out, turn your head. I turned my head and I was safe. And that's one of the things with risk. When it's in an e-commerce business, we can look at all the things that we can do to reduce our risk. Do we look at the numbers on, a certain product? We making sure that, there's demand. Does it make sense seasonally when we're purchasing products that we're buying? Do we have, the right keywords in our listings? Are we going after a product that maybe has got too much competition or not enough competition, does not have any demand at all, and that's why no one's selling that product? So there's certain things we can do that kind of puts the points in our favor. There's no guarantee, but it puts the points in our favor. But I also think it's very important to realize where we turn our head, and not just turn our head like on a motorcycle where you literally have to turn your head. So if you want to go left, you better turn your head left. Don't turn right. Don't look right if you're trying to go left. But you literally want to make sure that you're going, that you're focusing on where you want to go. So if you focus on how things might not work out and how things are going to go bad, you're going to find all those reasons. It's kind of one of those seek and you shall find, how things might go poorly. But if you focus on how things could go right, things will go right. And, it's easy to have head trash come up. I remember when I first talked to Scott Volker about, the idea of doing Brand Accelerator Live, I was like, oh, he's going to say no, and he didn't. But, what would have been the worst case scenario there? And this is another strategy for handling risk, is look at what is the worst thing that could happen. Usually it's nowhere near as bad as we think. Oftentimes it's normal. If you ever get this demon in your head, this head trash, so to speak, where it's telling you like, oh my God, if I try this, everyone's going to laugh at me. It's all going to be terrible. And I'm going to be broke and homeless and divorced, and my family will disown me, and my friends will never talk to me. This is the kind of things that go on in our head. But usually it's, well, in the case of like when I pitched the idea of Brand Accelerator to Scott, it wasn't even called Brand Accelerator. It was just, he should do an event. Best case scenario, we do it, make a lot of great contacts, get to know him more, get to know other people in the industry more, win all around for everybody. And I could offer, my services, my experience from having worked in hotels and in the convention business. That's the win. The worst case that would happen is he says, no, thank you though. I mean, it's not like I was going to be homeless or whatever. And then, when I first started, it was like, oh, I kept like finding like little things that could be wrong with my product. And it's like, more than anything, I was just scared. I didn't want to put it to market. Like I had the units. I just was almost like ready to not ship them into Amazon because I was scared. Or, before I made oh my God, the supplier will take all my money. But chances are, worst case scenario, it was like $1,500 or whatever it was. They're not going to run off with it. And if they do, it's not good, but, it wasn't going to cause me to be homeless, So looking at risk of what is the worst that could happen versus what's the best that can happen. And if the worst also, how likely is it? Is it likely that you could put a product up and it doesn't work out? Yeah. Could you try a new product that doesn't work out? Yeah. Could you have a product that works out and it goes well, and then you find another product similar to it and you put it up and it works well? Yeah. Or maybe you try 5 different products, 3 of which are good, 2 of them aren't so good. Does that work out in the end? Yeah, because if you just keep doing that over and over again, now you've got a whole bunch of products that you can keep reinvesting and they're doing well. And the ones that didn't do so well, you figure out how to liquidate them, or you just don't reorder it, or whatever the case is. There's always a way to manage that risk. And the more comfortable we can get with risk, the better off we're going to be. So hopefully you found this video to be helpful. I think I kind of rambled on there for a little bit, but please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing so that way I can make sure to give you updates on whenever we have more videos like this come available. So I wish you the best, and take care, and best of what you got going on in your e-commerce journey. Take care.